Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Hiya, Georgie.
Swallow this.
Cat dead. Details later. I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're listening to us. So this is episode 67. We made a corporate decision that we were going to talk about Nicolas Cage and instead focus on one movie. We're doing three. We're going to be talking about Willy's Wonderland, Dream Scenario, and of course, Mandy. Now, all of these movies share only one element in that they're horror. Other than that, completely different in every way.
Yeah, the fact that Nicolas Cage is in all of them.
Pretty much. So yeah, Mandy is has a romance element to it. Willy's Wonderland is a much more Five Nights at Freddy-esque kind of thing, and we've got Dream Scenario, which again very very undertones of a romantic element to it, but a completely different character to who we found in Mandy. So for me personally, the three movies, the one that stands out the most to me, although I do love Mandy with all my heart, is Dream Scenario. I went to go see that at the movies on my own. There was only a dozen or so of us in the movie theater at the time, all women, all around my age. So I don't know what that means. I don't know. I don't know if there.
Shared love of Nicolas Cage.
I'm not sure if it was about Nicolas Cage or if there is a real emergence of cinephiles, female cinephiles in their mid-30s that have just had enough of dating and men and friends generally and just want to go see movies by themselves. And to be honest, good for them. I wouldn't be able to do half the things that I've been able to do if I didn't do them alone. So me and Zayford, we actually had a conversation last night where I'm just like, you're missing everything. And because of his geographical location, he really doesn't get much access to anything in the cinema. I'm quite
travel like a good hour and a half at least.
Yeah.
To get to a cinema. It just does not warrant the amount it
Yeah.
would cost on a train.
So where I live, we have an Odeon Lux, which seems to prioritize the big blockbusters, and a lot of horror gets overlooked or not really bothered about. It was quite crazy because I remember last year when Infinity Pool came out, I had to go all the way to, where was it? I think it was, I went to Milton Keynes to go and see it. And they then started showing random late night showings about 3 months later for it where I was living. And I'm just like, what's the point at that point? It's like been a quarter of a year since it came out. Everyone's seen it who wants to see it.
Yeah, it's like,
so
we've got a cinema here, but it's like a small cinema. So whenever we get a film, if we do, it's usually a month after it's finished in somewhere else.
yeah, you get the dregs of what's left.
Like streaming, or it's somewhere to buy at least.
Yeah. So it's not. It's a shame. It's a shame that cinema isn't more accessible. It'd be great if it was. It would be fantastic if they did start to understand that there are a lot of cinema goers that just can't make it and make these things streamable. But then again, I suppose the Odeon wouldn't be profiting much off of their pick and mix if we were to do those things. So
yeah, I don't even buy pick and mix. I just take my own stuff in.
Yeah, well, they have this really weird rule at Odeon where you're not to take any food in that's pungent or hot. So, but I've taken sushi in, I've taken Chinese in, I've taken Nando's in. You just got to bring a big backpack and hope that they don't
really check as much anymore either. I think
they're very stringent. Do you know what? They're very stringent at mine. They weren't at first, and then suddenly they just started checking everybody's bags, and I think there must have been like a clean up on aisle, God knows what, like some drunk came in and just ruined it for everybody or something. Cineworld is very much the same. Like, I tried to bring some Five Guys in there once, and I literally had to eat it in the foyer. Like, I was stuffing a hot dog down my throat, and you know how much fries they give you. There's no way I could eat all those fries, so I just stuffed them in my handbag, and I'm like, well, I'm taking that in regardless, and like took my drink in. But that was when I went to see that movie, you know, Eileen, that thriller. Yeah. Which I didn't actually think that much of anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, cinemas and their dumb policies, it sucks.
I mean, they've got to make money somewhere because to be fair, tickets are pretty cheap, at least in the UK, depending on what cinema you're at. Like Odeon's is like a £5. I think Cineworld.
Not here it isn't.
It's because you're down
Are you
south,
kidding?
though.
Are you kidding me? Oh, not here it isn't. Obviously, because I live near London. Our tickets can sometimes go for £19 a pop.
What fucking
Yes.
seats are you buying? You're buying the most expensive ones on it.
Yeah. No, that's just a standard because it's a Lux
The closest Odeon cinema is like 45 minutes away, give or take. That's about a £5 for a ticket.
It really depends on the time of the week as well. So if you go in the middle of the week, no, well, not here it isn't.
That's just southern.
Yeah, pretty much. And but at least at the one that I have, they have the recliners. The seats are really comfortable. The screens
really
are
good seats as well. They probably put the price up now.
Yeah, the screens are good as well. Like I find like when I do get cheap, so you can go to Cineworld in Milton Keynes or Hemel Hempstead or High Wycombe, and their tickets can range from anything from like £6 to like I think the most I've ever spent is like 12. But they're not plush like the Odeon Luxes. They don't have recliners. Their chairs are a little bit uncomfortable, and some of their screens, because they have like 20 of them, they're very like packed in. Like you don't have a lot of space, so you're kind of sat right next to people. And I think I do prefer the Lux for the space and everything, but like it is quite frustrating when you're trying to watch a movie and like people are literally like elbowing you and shit. But it's so funny because like I remember, gosh, when I went to see Barbarian, I went to one of those small sort of screenings, and it actually worked really well because you could hear like the audience laughing, and it was kind of like a social experience, so it was fun. But I think watching movies that are a little bit like introspective, that you don't really want to have that kind of interaction with people, is not as pleasant. So
for a ticket,
if you want to,
for a ticket today for Late Night with the Devil, it's £10.95 for a reclining chair.
nice.
And for a normal one, I can't remember which it is. So again, though. Oh, it's still £9 something. So. That includes like the fucking extra tax bullshit, online booking fee.
Well, they have started rolling out the Odeon beds as well, which literally look like PE white mats. They do not look nice at all. I haven't tried them out yet. I actually wanted to, but I saw them and I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna get.
I won't trust it. I don't care about regularly cleaned.
Yeah.
You just know someone's gonna be trying to get frisky in there.
Well, that's the thing. They're like right at the front as well. So like there's no privacy. You'd think if they were going to like have them, they'd be at the back. But then again, I suppose they'd have to be they would actually be worried about cleanup. But I just wonder what it would be like laying down in front of like a whole cinema, like behind you.
It's bad enough sitting directly at the front anyway. Never mind laying down and seeing the entire screen, and all you can see is this much of it.
Yeah, so I don't know, and the pillows that they have there don't look very comfy either. It just doesn't look like a comfy setup for me personally. So I haven't tried it yet, but yeah, the last time I went to the cinema was last week. I went to a 25th anniversary showing of Fight Club, and it was fucking awesome on the big screen. I'm so happy that I got to see that on the big screen because I was like 9 years old.
The Crow in.
Eh?
It's the 30th anniversary this year of The Crow. Why is it not in the cinema yet?
Oh, I wonder if that'll be something that comes out around October.
I'm hoping so. I would love to see that again. I'd love to see it in general in the cinema.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that they are sort of listening to cinephiles and the fact that we would actually appreciate to see these things on a bigger screen, because as much as you get good setups and stuff at home, nothing beats seeing it at the cinema.
Oh, yeah.
And us being at the age that we were, I mean, I was 9 years old when Fight Club came out, so I would never have been able to see that at the cinema. So being able to see it like yeah, it was awesome. It was
like
really good.
The Crow came out just before I was born, so it's like I would never have seen it either.
Yeah, so I would have been like 4 or 3.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have been able to see it either.
It's like Scream came out, and I managed to watch that when it came out the other year in cinema.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was 25 years. I'm like, thank God I've seen it in the cinema.
What was it like? Did you feel like...
You can definitely hear all the extra grunts and stuff of like the ghost bears when they're chasing. But other than that, it was just like watching it on a massive TV, which was good.
Yeah. I just think like being a certain age, like we've missed out on like sort of like the golden age of horror cinema and cinema generally. So being able to see those things is kind of like is cool, you know. But c'est la vie. We could go on all day and talk about things about what we love about cinemas and their overpricedness and seating. We are actually here to talk about Nicolas Cage. And yeah, I've said what my favorite is. What is your favorite out of the 3?
If I was gonna say which one I would rewatch the most, probably Willy's Wonderland, just because it's funny and stupid. But the one I like the most in story wise is Mandy.
Absolutely. I think that Mandy is... it's one of them films that I put off watching for years, and it was just like, you told me, you were like, you got to watch that, you know, it's pretty good. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And the only thing I really saw was Nick Cage like covered in blood in a car. That was kind of like the only still I'd seen. Yeah, from that movie. So I was kind of thinking, oh, is this just going to be some sort of like gore fest, you know, slasher thing? Like I can put it off. I was not prepared for what Mandy actually was. And when I was about halfway through watching it, I was sitting there like, damn, this is good. This is good cinema. Like, it's not just like the story in itself, but like the acting, the characterization, the plot of the movie. You don't really understand. You're sort of learning along what this cult is all about. And you know, the love story between them, Red, and you're just it just puts you in this weird, amazing, grungy little bubble that like I never want to leave. Like they lived in like this paradise together, and I was just... the first 20 minutes of the film is you're sort of you're taking a lens and looking into their world as they are as a pair. And then there's this big red lens that suddenly shifts over when Mandy's walking through, where the cult comes through. And it's just it's just this amazing moment where everything shifts from being an idealistic way of spending your life with someone to utter hell. And I think it gives amazing nuances to cults such as like the Mansons, following cult leaders like they are family, treating the cult leaders like they are gods and they are to be worshipped and nurtured. And it just... it's very psychologically quite a deep movie as well. Like even on the... and yes, I have on the 3rd viewing, because I enjoyed it so much, I have watched it 3 times now. You pick up like these weird little things that they say to each other, and you know, there's just this... it's very good. It's a very good perception of cults, their behaviors, the way that they are, the way that they function, and the way that they can just come in and obliterate people's lives. And yeah, I was not ready for it, and I'm glad that I kind of went into it raw and not really knowing much about it. I mean, you're not the only one who told me I should watch it. There's been a few people, but I just...
great film.
yeah, when you take you take context from what little you see, I just thought it's just going to be another thing where I kind of thought maybe Willy's... especially with the look on his face where he's kind of like crazed and he's like... and there's like...
this is like his most crazy when he's like...
absolutely it is bloody, it is gory, and it is a tale of revenge from a male perspective, which is, you know, pretty cool. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. I'm not sure if we're allowed to spoil it. Are we allowed to? I mean, it came out years ago.
I mean, it's been out, what, 6 years? Yeah, you can spoil it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think, like, after the film progresses to the point where Mandy is burnt in a big cheating, supposedly?
It's like the
What
begging or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the what happens next?
It's interesting. I enjoyed all of it though, but like I thought the whole idea of having this weird Hellraiser Cenobite esque fucking biker gang was pretty cool as well. Like they've just done so many drugs that are cut with the wrong thing, and they're all just fucked. It's like it's a nice take on hired help in a sense. But yeah, it's good. I liked it. Like all of it, just as a whole package.
Yeah, I think like the drug aspect is really important to consider as well. Like it was kind of giving me Ezra Miller vibes, you know?
Oh yeah,
Um
the whole breakdown.
yeah, and it turned out that he had a whole cult going on and they were all very loyal to him, and actually someone was speaking out against him and saying like what he was actually doing, and it was shocking to say the least to know that these kinds of things still happen, because you watch so many, well, I have definitely watched so many things about cults, and you kind of hope that these things aren't still happening, but they very much are. I mean, another one to consider, which maybe isn't as extreme but in a way kind of is that and they don't call themselves a cult, is what are those people called, the people that have the twin flame universe. So they basically pair up people and say that they have the knowledge that that is their twin flame, and they're actually making people have trans surgery and become different genders, because there's a female and a male in a relationship, and you're the feminine energy and you're the male energy. So there's still like these cults out there that are really fucking dangerous and actually scary. But
Didn't know
yeah,
about that one.
yeah. It's Twin
Jesus.
Flame Universe. It's on Netflix. Yeah, it's called Escaping Twin Flames, and it's, yeah, I watched it all in one go with my son one day. We just binge watched it all, and by the end of it, it was like he was said that the leader was saying like, "I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but." He held up a picture of himself and he was like, "Do you see the similarity here? Do you see it? Do you see?" And it's
Anyone
just
with
like,
long hair and a beard can say that.
and that is how it starts, is like, you can imagine that these people join these cults because they're lost and they look for a leader, and then the leader, the egocentricity of being a leader of a cult causes you to transfigure yourself into a godlike entity, and then before you know it, you are literally having people doing everything and anything for you that they shouldn't be doing. And I just, like I said earlier, I just feel like Mandy is such an amazing portrayal of that, and we don't really see enough cults like that in cinema. When we see them often, it's usually just people going along with it. In Mandy, it's like we're seeing the intricate relationships that are formed with the leader, and how much they have actually impacted their lives as well. And of course, like you said, the undertones of drug use and its effects on the mind and the will and the wants of what you actually, and your perception of reality. And yeah, man, it's a crazy movie. It's so well done. And yeah, like I said, with the characterization, I really believed in it. It took me like into that space, and like I said, it was like this weird little grungy bubble from the, I mean, what era are we looking at, that this is this set in the 70s or the 80s?
Oh,
I want to say
I
70s,
want to
like
say
it,
80s.
yeah.
It's like an early 80s esque setting.
it it gives, and yeah, it gives off this very like late 70s early 80s vibe of like, and there's yeah, I would say probably I think it's the music that's making me think more 70s, but then there's this real synth
On top.
underlaying of it. Yeah, so I would, yeah. So it's like that. There's a real vibe there going on. Yeah, I just love it. It's such a good movie. It's so good.
There's a high recommend. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. And also the
Yeah,
spoiler of Mandy dying is like in the first half an hour, 45 minutes. It's fine.
and the carnage that ensues, and who loves a good story about a man avenging the death of the woman that he loves? You know,
Yeah, we get it quite common now.
you think?
Revenge thrillers, horror films, yeah, it's pretty common.
Remind me.
John Wick.
That's about a dog. That's not about a woman.
It's still a revenge film.
I'm
Series franchise.
talking romance here. I'm talking about a woman. Yeah. To be fair, my dog is better than any man I've ever been with, so I get it. But I mean, like, yeah, the romance element. That was something that I just didn't think this film was, and I haven't seen anything like Mandy before. It's really cool. And Nicolas Cage yet again surpasses expectations of actually being a good actor, and actually well respected in horror, which brings me over to Dream Scenario. Dream Scenario, I feel, is like his best horror movie, and I'll tell you for why.
Even though it's not technically classed as a horror film.
I mean, it's an A24 dark thriller horror movie, comedy, whatever you want to
It's a
call it.
black comedy fantasy film.
All right. But to me, I think it's horror. I think it includes many horror elements, especially when we're talking about the dreams in which gradually occur throughout the film. There are some amazing imagery shown when people are retelling their dreams that are absolutely just horrifying. One sticks out for me in particular of one of his students talking about how he's in the woods and he's wearing a suit. And then there's a bloody man that's coming towards him, and then Nicolas Cage just kind of walks in, and that was very like sudden, like ooh, you know. And what's interesting is obviously him being like a minor celebrity turning into a major celebrity, actually, because it becomes kind of a phenomenon, soon becomes a nightmare in of itself, and he actually ends up becoming a horror figure to the point where they are having therapy sessions in the gymnasium to convince them that he did not rape you, he did not attack you, he did not kill your family in front of you. One of the most funniest moments in the movie is when he does this walk, which is I'm sure everybody's seen it in their dreams at least once, where somebody walks towards you like all their limbs are like moving up and down like this, and they're yeah. And it's kind of it doesn't make any sense, and it's all like disjointed and shit. Like he really portrayed like being a fucking scary man in these dreams very well. But in reality, in the actual reality of the movie, he is I don't want to say unsuccessful, because he's not unsuccessful. He has his PhD, which he likes to drop any time he's threatened. But he lives a rather quiet, boring.
Yeah, he's boring. He's a boring parent.
And
he PhD and is a teacher.
He's a balding, mediocre dude growing old in suburbia with his 2 kids and his wife, who is absolutely enamored with him, and which makes him feel like a king in of himself. And when he gets hold of this fame, he doesn't really know how to deal with it, and he is bumbling through all of it, enjoying it, but at the same time wanting to hold on to the fact that he doesn't want to be in a Sprite commercial. He wants to be known for his work in his PhD, which is he feels has been stolen by a friend of his that he went to university with years ago. He wants to publish his own book. We have a very interesting conversation where he meets with a room of PR people, and he is trying.
Sarah.
Yes,
It's
which I thought
ridiculous.
which I thought was very funny, and also acknowledging that his voice has changed so much over the years. He has a much deeper voice than he used to.
I think
I guess
realistically, he put that voice on for a couple of years at least,
maybe so, but
just
to me,
because
when
he was
he
getting in the roles.
yeah, and yeah, I suppose we can speak about spoilers because we have mentioned spoilers with Mandy. So, um, in the PR room, there is one young lady who I struggled to recognize who the hell she was for a while. It turns out that she's from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. She's I she's got a very fancy name basically, and she's a part of the family that Kimmy goes to work for, and she's a bratty teenager, but she's all grown up now and working for PR with Michael Cera. And yeah, one thing kind of leads to another, and it turns out that she's been having dreams about him. And they go out for a couple of drinks. I feel like he kind of did this because so Nicolas Cage's character is feeling a little bit upset because he's talked to his wife, who's normally enamored by him. She's getting a little bit sick of the fame, not really enjoying it as much as he would hope her to, and feels a bit scorned that the PR meeting was more about him meeting Barack Obama, and being in a Sprite commercial, more about academics. And I feel that he can feel her pulling away from it all, and that she's not really that into it. So he decides, fuck it, I'll go out for a drink with this young lady who's young enough to be my daughter. They have this conversation in a bar. He then gets accosted by a couple of people who are like, "Oh, it's you," which is a prevalent thing through the whole film, where they people are always looking at him like, I think I know you, and yeah, one thing that leads to another, and he ends up in her flat, and she wants to reenact the dream, which in fact he ends up being an attacker that sexually, I don't want to say rapes because she seems quite willing.
Yeah, I was
Um,
gonna say in the dream it seems very much like she's down for it.
yeah, yeah. So I think maybe she does have a bit of a attacker kink.
Maybe.
Um, sorry, I'm trying to readjust myself because my leg has gone numb. So excuse me for if I'm moving around a little bit. But yeah, so she she invites him over, and it's not quite what she thought it was going to be. She gets him to stand in the corner, and then he kind of he does as he's told. She's kind of like directing him. Um, and it becomes a little bit like, okay, this is leaning into, I mean, it's unacceptable anyway because he's married, but like the fact that like they're now touching each other and stuff, and then he farts, which I laughed so hard in the cinema when that happened, and he was like, oh, it's quite natural actually. She perseveres, goes through it, continues to, and he jizzes in his pants and leaves. And this is the turning point of the movie, funnily enough. This is when the dreams start to become violent, sadistic, involving rape, murder, torture. And I didn't think about this at first. I was wondering like why did it turn? But I noticed that the turning point was at his infidelity. And I wonder if this movie had something to do with karma, and the fact that he had been given an opportunity to do something with what he was given, and actually ended up kind of cheating on his wife. And
It was definitely implied that he was attempting, in a sense.
yeah, and so the repercussions of that were catastrophic, and it turned from being a movie where he was getting autographs to he was being attacked, he was being told to leave restaurants, people were feeling uncomfortable and not showing up to his classes. Things escalate very quickly. Like I said, there's like a counselor that ends up having to come into the school and sort of teach them CBT trauma techniques to help deal with them. Like he brings in like a photo of him and says like, this is him, he's not scary. And then they have him walk into the room, and then he's like, come on guys, and they all run away. And he ends up like not being able to go to work anymore because like people are literally like convinced, even though they are just dreams, that the trauma is so intense he cannot remain on campus. and his whole life just becomes fucked, and he loses his wife as well. It's really, really sad, because, you know, you start the story with him being this withdrawn but wry kind of guy, and like I said, mediocre in suburbia. He had it all, really, but felt slightly unfulfilled in his career, and at a cost of him doing these things with this young woman, has now lost it all. An interesting take is then that they figured out the phenomenon of him being in people's dreams, and managed to extract and understand, after he went into hiding for a while, how to make people implant into other people's dreams. They then did this by having influencers being a part of this whole campaign, where they can walk into people's dreams midway and endorse products, which I think is potentially a thing that could happen in the future, and potentially terrifying.
that is definitely something that's going to happen, like 20 years down the line, maybe.
And not only
A
did
bit
they
further.
extract the technology to be able to use this thing as advertising, they have these bracelets that you can purchase where you have control of your dreams, and you can, like, there's lots of YouTube videos and stuff of how to be in control of what you want in your dreams and everything, along with wearing this bracelet. And obviously, because his wife has left him and everything's fallen apart, and he's now only become famous in more of the they say far right, but it's obviously the horror underground that now has a keen interest in him, particularly in France. He's made to do this funny photo shoot where he has to wear a Freddy Krueger hand, which he thinks this is a bit silly. He's led to believe that it's going to be a memoir, and it turns out to be more of a gimmick.
They changed like the title to like The Nightmare or something like that.
Yeah, I am your nightmare or something, and it's in French. But he said, I thought the name was going to be Dream Scenario, and it was changed. So like he's totally out of control of everything at this point. So you see a lot of sort of him trying to figure out how to use his dreams, because there's this very funny conversation he has with his wife at the beginning of the movie where he says, well, if I was in your dreams, what would you want me to do? And she says, well, you know, she tells him this embarrassing dream about how he is wearing a big suit with
Like the big
shoulder
blocky
pad,
suit.
big blocky suit, shoulder pad suit, and she's stuck burning, and he has to come and save her. And then they dance together, and he thinks the whole thing is silly and ridiculous, but it turns out that what he wanted more than anything is to visit her in the dream and make her dream come true. And in the end, he actually does come and visit her. He rescues her from being tied to a tree amongst a fire, and they dance slowly together, and it's really poignant and sad because you can see that he truly loved his wife. He truly wanted her, and he truly didn't really know what he had until he lost it. And he floats away from her, and the last thing he says to her is, I wish this was real. And off he goes. And I just loved it. I loved the horror elements in it. I loved the romantic elements of it. I thought it was funny. I just think the characterization of Nicolas Cage's character was just fantastic. I think that it's like one of the best roles that he's had in a long time. He really stepped into that awkward, bumbling, somewhat socially inept, shy, medium man. You know, so I that's why it's my favorite out of the three, because I just loved it. I thought I really believed in the story, you know.
Yeah, it's a good film. It's not one I'm gonna watch regular though, but it is a good film still. Just for Nicolas Cage, if anything.
It's funny because I watched it in the cinema and I really enjoyed it, like, a lot. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars or something, and then upon rewatch, it didn't have the rewatchability that I hoped it would have. So I would probably have put it down to a 4-star, but it's still pretty good, you know. I have the same thing with Poor Things. Like, I gave that 5 stars at the cinema because I was at the cinema when I watched it, and it was really really like, oh my god,
experience.
what? Yeah, but I wonder upon rewatching what my opinions will be of it, if it will be the same, because with Poor Things, there was quite a lot of people at the cinema at the time when I was watching it. So, like, you know, there was a lot of laughter. There was a lot of, there was a lot of what the hell. You know, it was quite an experience. Whereas watching it on your own at home, perhaps it won't have the same sort of impact. But again, good movie. So yeah, Dream Scenario, definitely one to check out. I would put that just under Mandy, just over Mandy, because I just thought it was fantastic. But yeah, bringing us over to Willy's Wonderland, a completely different kettle of fish. It's the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that we should have got, but we never did. Obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's was released last year, and it was definitely catered to its target audience and focused less on gore and more about story. It was certified over here as a 15. In America, I believe it was PG-13. So I managed to get my daughter in. She would have died if she wouldn't have been able to see it. She has loved Five Nights at Freddy's since she was like 4, maybe 5 years old. So she grew up with all the plushies and all the stories, and she first learnt about it through Markiplier, the playthroughs and stuff, and
YouTube
then
star.
yeah,
I
yes.
used to watch
So
it when I was younger.
yeah, and well, he was obsessed. She was obsessed with Markiplier at one point, and yeah, Five Nights at he really opened that sort of gate for her. But she told me a lot about the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's that's not really explained unless you go searching
They've
for
got
it.
sequels coming. There's like 2 sequels coming. They've said it's going to be a trilogy at least. Yeah.
So what could happen next after that? Because for me, like when I went to see it with Lily, and she is like, he's very clued up on all the lore, so she was like, oh, I bet that's that person, oh no, and oh my god, they brought up that one, and you know, and I was thinking like, so this is like a fully encapsulated movie, there can't be anything after that.
I don't know. They'll bring some. It made enough money to warrant sequels. It's Blumhouse. You know what they're like.
I feel like people in our age group were quite disappointed by it.
Oh yeah, because realistically, Willy's Wonderland was better.
I think the amount of gore that was in it was nothing. The amount of horror in it was, I mean, it's like Killer Clowns Out of Space kind of level of horror. It just wasn't. It
Yeah, but
wasn't
that's
like
also very
horrific.
fitting for that's Killer Clowns is a product of its time. It came out in the 80s. That's
I
meant to
just,
be dumb fun.
yeah, I get it, but it's just like with, I think because of how long they left it, there had been so much hype about Five Nights at Freddy's, and then with Willy's Wonderland coming out a couple of years before it, there was some expectations that just weren't met. I think with Willy's Wonderland, there was such it was such a copycat of the story of Five Nights at Freddy's, but in a way it was made even more twisted and overtly like about pedophilia, about murder, about like sadism, and a bit of satanic panic thrown in there for good measure. With Five Nights at Freddy's, it was like a very, and I love the guy from Scooby Doo that's in it as well. I was quite, yes, I loved his character in it too, and yeah,
That's the main
quite,
reason to watch it.
yeah, totally.
There's about 4 references to Scream as well.
There were a lot that, do you know what? There was a lot of nods to a lot of things in there, and I respect it for that. But I feel like as a film as a whole, Five Nights at Freddy's it just didn't hit it for me. For my daughter, however, she said it was perfect. She said it was exactly what she wanted. So I think you saying that there's going to be a trilogy makes perfect sense because it clearly spoke to the age group that it was aimed for.
And maybe they'll go darker as the audience is growing, like growing up.
I just feel like because they've killed the main protagonist
Have they
and
though?
somewhat tame. I don't think he's going to survive that.
No, but he might come back as like he might possess the robot.
Perhaps,
Which was I think what they were implying.
But she like Lily really sort of said to me like that is the story from start to finish. I feel, you know, like it didn't feel like there's going to be another one. So it will be interesting if there is another one, because it while it didn't hit for me personally. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars or 3 stars or something. I felt like it was an all-rounded film. I don't think like there can be, but if there is going to be, that's going to be very interesting for me, because like I can't see it personally. Excuse Zaphard's loud clacky keyboard.
Oh, can you hear it? No.
Yeah, it's really loud.
I turned it down.
It's really loud. It's okay.
I turned it down because I was Googling.
It's alright.
Yeah, there's at least a second one coming out.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's definitely.
But the thing says it potentially might be a prequel.
So
I don't know.
That would make a lot. That would make a lot more sense. Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. And if there is a prequel, then perhaps that will have much darker connotations.
Like I said, they could easily tone it up.
Yeah.
As the audience is growing, because it's going to be what 2 years minimum.
And there's got to be an overture, like they've got to be listening to reviewers, and it's particularly like the older audience, and they must know that like people our age, maybe a bit younger, we didn't think it was that great. So, you know, amping up that, I think, but speaking to my daughter, who is massively invested in the franchise, or at least was, she said it was perfect. So I think that it'll have butts will be on seats regardless. They will definitely show up for it again.
It'll make money either way.
I just remember reading. I remember watching the advert for it. You know, the whole 90s ball pit, like the come to Fazbear's and it was just Freddy Fazbear's, and you know, and just like just that whole found footage video thing, like that really got me like, oh, this is gonna be good. They're marketing this good, and yeah, when I saw it, it was just not what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, but it's like you watched the trailer for Willy's Wonderland, and you're like, oh, this is like a cheap rip-off of Five Nights at Freddy's with Nicolas Cage. Then you watch the two side by side, and Willy's Wonderland is the better film.
No contest.
Despite
no
the
contest.
fact that they're the same age rating.
Isn't Willy? I swear Willy's Wonderland is an 18.
I have both of them. I can show you.
Is it a 15?
The camera's there. That's a 15.
That's
a 15. They're the same.
Okay.
And yet, Willy's Wonderland has more gore, more violence, more swearing, maybe.
Yeah, and sexual nature stuff too.
Yeah, not today's.
You know, they're literally having sex in the party room. You know, they're going at it. So yeah, Willy's Wonderland. Willy's Wonderland is fantastic. I think it caters for the people that would want to see a gorier, more exciting version of Five Nights at Freddy's. I think Five Nights at Freddy's had such potential, but Willy's Wonderland surpassed that. And there was a lot of confusion when it came out, like how were they able to get away with this, because it is so similar to Five Nights at Freddy's, but at the same time it's like, well, that ship has sailed for Five Nights at Freddy's. They had so much time to make this movie.
Yeah, they were very popular in like the early 2010s.
Yeah. So it was like
it's been 10 years minimum.
Yeah. So like it was kind of like you've had your opportunity, you know, let's have somebody else have a go at it. And yeah, while the characters were similar to Five Nights at Freddy's, the story sort of like relied heavily more on Satanism and you know, ritualistic magic, and yeah, just a lot of horrific death and stuff like that. Whereas Five Nights at Freddy's, it has those elements of like having a child predator in it, but it's very toned down, whereas Willy's Wonderland is not toned down at all. It's like it's super like gore in your face, and we're not
the animatronics were a lot better as well. like
Yeah.
Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah, I felt like that too. Like the like actually seeing Freddy and Chica, actually I felt that they looked a bit wrong. Like they didn't look how I expected them to look.
I feel like
Like,
they look good for how they look in the games and stuff, but I still prefer Willy the Weasel.
mm, I don't know, there was something about them that just didn't seem very menacing, whereas when you play the games of Five Nights at Freddy's, they're very fucking frightening.
Yeah, because they jump out at you all the time.
Well, no, it's not just that they jump out at you, it's the way that they look at you. Like, just the way and the way, like the way that they act, and like I don't know. I just didn't think much of it at all. But yeah, with Willy's Wonderland, it's not really a focus so much on like children having a relationship with the animatronics. It is literally he is doing the job of what you're kind of supposed to be doing in the Five Nights at Freddy's thing,
Yeah, he's the
but
security guard that gets killed every night.
he's a cleanup crew. He's there to fix it up. So
Well, he's not
that's
even there to fix it. He's there to. He is technically the security. He's like, oh, you need to stay and watch this, maybe tidy it up a bit, and that's about it. That's all.
yeah.
That's the job. It's like, oh, if you stay here for one night, we'll fix your car for free, sort of thing.
And I got excited when it was talking about the, in Five Nights at Freddy's, him actually like being the security guard and all this kind of stuff and guarding it. But it just didn't hit the same way. It wasn't the same. Like, yeah, with Willy's Wonderland, it's like the dude doesn't say anything. Nick Cage like barely speaks at all in it. He speaks towards.
He doesn't say anything.
Yeah, he does not say anything other than grunts and chugs soda.
It's like this weird energy drink that he's chugging and constantly playing pinball.
Yeah. So it is great fun to watch. It's a fun watch, and it is something that like I watched it with my daughter because obviously she's a Five Nights at Freddy's fan and she enjoyed it as well. I have asked her like which one she thinks is better, and she does say Five Nights at Freddy's, but that's because she's forever Stan. So
So wrong.
But yeah, what is it about you? What is it about like out of the three? What is it that you enjoy the most out of Willy's Wonderland that will put it at the top?
I wouldn't really say I put it at the top. Like I said, Mandy's probably the best out of the three for me. Willy's Wonderland, I just like the fact that it's a dumb horror film that's obviously imitating something else but better. And you've got this character, you've got Nick Cage of all people, and you give him the script where he has to say nothing, and you're just waiting for him to say something, like even at the end, like some weird knowledge that he has about spirits or animatronics or something, because clearly he's dealt with this at some point before or something very similar. But no, he just says nothing, and that's what I enjoy about it. It just acts all in the face. It's great.
So let's give some ratings. Dream Scenario. What did you give it on Letterboxd?
Oh man, now I have to find it on Letterboxd.
I mean, you can just tell me a starring if you can't find it.
I probably can find it, but I also can't remember when I watched it. And as you can tell, I am stalling for time. I gave it a 3.5.
Okay, 3.5.
Just because it was less horror than I was expecting. So I was expecting it to like be a bit more, not spooky, I guess.
It's an A24 movie. You go in there with high expectations at the end of the day.
Yeah, because like sometimes they have like really good films, and then sometimes they just miss it. And I think for me it was kind of a miss.
I wouldn't go that far. Well, for me, I gave it a 4.5 stars because I absolutely loved it. Loved the tone of the movie, so agree to disagree on that one. Willy's Wonderland, what did you give that?
I gave that a 4-star just because it's dumb. I like that one, but it's something you can watch and you don't have to pay too much attention to. It's just simple.
And we all know how much Seyfried loves his late night B movies that don't require a lot of.
You should see some of the shit I've been watching.
Oh my gosh. What?
Like some of the shit I've been watching on Prime.
Yeah, there's a lot of fodder on there, I gotta say.
Like fucking, there's just a lot of shit that's getting like 2.5 stars.
So Willy's Wonderland, I think I gave it 3.5, mainly because it was fun, had great watchability. Don't know if it would be something I would rewatch again. I think I have seen it twice, but I don't think I'd watch it any more than that. Yeah, so
I
I
think
gave it
it's a
three and
good
a
film
half.
to stick on if you like doing like a horror Halloween. I don't know what the fucking word is.
Marathon.
Yeah, that's the one. Could not think of the word marathon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun film.
Yeah,
It's a fun
it's fun
film,
to watch with friends at least.
definitely. And with Mandy, what would you give that?
Mandy's also a 4 star.
Okay.
Potentially higher, but
Mm-hmm.
I just think every time I've watched it, it's always really late. So I always get not necessarily bored, but sleepy.
It does lull you, doesn't it? Because I
Yeah.
watched it late at night and I was getting quite tired, and it wasn't because it was boring. It, like I said, it puts you in this bubble, this weird fucking grunge awesome bubble. And I don't know if it's the comfortability of that, us being alternative, and it's like, the music, the imagery, this is fucking beautiful.
It's just a lot of like soft music,
Yeah,
especially at the
I don't know.
beginning.
I don't know what it is, but it does lull you a little bit, but it's not boring. We can
No.
promise you that. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was a near enough perfect film for me. I was not ready for it. I did not know it was going to be how it was going to be. Some of the gore scenes in it are absolutely fantastic. Nicolas Cage plays an amazing character in it. The vulnerability of the relationship between them at the beginning and the connection between them is so fucking impactful, and you feel that rage, you feel that hate. It's a revenge flick that's worth the revenge, like you're invested in it. So I gave it a 4.5. It definitely, yeah, it's a good movie. So yeah.
I want like a prequel comic to it because I want to
Ah,
know what he did before. Because he was like the fact that he owned the crossbow and was like just like, oh, I'm just
mm,
getting that back. I want to know what he did before he was a lumberjack.
totally. Yeah, I actually own the official soundtrack on cassette because I
Very
loved it that
fancy.
much.
I want to get on vinyl.
I've oh really? I want, and I also want to get a VHS of it as well to add to my little VHS collection, because I think it deserves to be in my little VHS collection. I'm very specific about my VHSs. Like I only have about 8 of them. I like the ones that are like obviously not VHSs but are modernized films put on
Yeah.
that. Like I have that
Melancholy.
with X and Pearl as well, like a double feature. I've got
Oh,
that
you got
as
that
well.
from Australia.
Yeah, that there are a lot of people. I mean, we probably shouldn't be saying this. I don't know if it's legal. That are putting more recent movies on VHS, and it is an emerging thing for people because the VHS is coming back, and people are collecting VHSs from flea markets and from charity shops and shit. And actually, it is really fucking cool watching a movie from 2021 on a VHS on a little fucking 90s screen. So it's a cool little niche that is coming back, as are cassettes. So I'm
Yeah,
kind of hopping on that trend.
every retro thing is coming back. Like vinyls are back, cassettes, VHSs.
It's
People are
because
saying
people are
laserdisc is coming
actually
back.
realizing that the 90s was the best fucking era ever. All right, we're a piece of shit. This is shit. The world that we're living in at the moment is fucking shit. It's scary. People are dying all the time for no fucking reason. And the 90s just weren't like that, man.
I don't know. I feel like the nineties was people were also dying for no reason.
Yeah, but not the way it is now. It's fucking crazy. I mean, geez, this is pre-COVID we're talking about. You could roll around in a ball pit and wouldn't worry about dying. Now it's like you see people with masks still years later, and
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people wear masks, and I'm like, really? You still wearing a
yeah,
mask? You're like, really?
particularly old people. I see that a
Oh no,
lot. Like
this was
on.
like I feel like someone younger than me.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's a bit weird. Just get over it. It's not gonna kill you now. It's been
But yeah,
4 years.
we have been talking about a trio of Nicolas Cage movies. Obviously, our last episode, Something in the Dirt and The Outwaters, is a double bill that we did that we'd really like you to listen to too. It involves two found footage movies that were released around 2022, 2023. We're not sure if we're going to continue to do the trilogy duo sort of thing, because our general formula is that we like to talk about one movie and then we tend to branch off into others. So it would be interesting to know if this is something that people would continue to be interested in, or if it would be better for us to focus on secular films. So a little bit of feedback on that would be great to our listeners. And for me personally, I'm happy to do either or. I think when we do sit down and dissect a film, on its own and pick up things apart, notable movies that we've done where we have sat and talked about just that particular movie. Of course, our episode you can also find on Spotify, Megan is Missing, one of our best episodes personally, I feel. So yeah, it's we're not sure what movies we're going to be doing next. Zaphod suggested me a rather funny creature feature that's more recent, Dog Soldiers.
You say more recently, it's 22 years old.
Well, it's not.
I was watching it
You.
last night. That's the reason why I was like, oh, should we do this?
Yeah. So I politely declined because I don't really think much of the movie. It's fun, but it's not really. It's not. I don't really think there's much to talk about in it.
We might be getting a sequel.
So we're a bit. Really?
Yeah,
We're a bit.
apparently, the director said that it was always meant to be a trilogy.
We're a bit up in the air of what we want to do next. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put a poll. Actually, we're not going to put a poll. We're going to do an open question of what do you want to hear next? Because we're at a bit of a stalemate at the moment of what we want to do. As you know, if you've been following us from the very beginning, we did deep dive into the disturbing iceberg and begin working through, and we got down to tier 5, and then that was somewhat abandoned. So there is always that fallback option of going back there if people are willing and wanting to listen to it. Or you can just throw something new at us, throw something fresh at us, because we're ready to talk about anything and anything, and we pretty much watch anything and anything. Well, Zaphod watches anything and everything, that's for sure. But
yeah, I'll review your shit film, don't worry. We started a YouTube. I'll just do it by myself if I have to.
No, what, you don't want me anymore?
No, if you don't want to review the shit film, I'll review it myself, don't worry.
What, you're going to sit and talk to yourself?
Won't be the first time.
Well,
I mean, home on a regular.
BP, let's talk horror.
Yeah.
He does that pretty well by himself, so
yeah.
Get some pointers from him, I guess, if you want to do that. Apparently we're on YouTube. I didn't know this, but we are on YouTube too, so go check us out on there. As you know, we're always on the streaming things, so Spotify, whatever. If you have been listening to us for a while and you haven't left us a review, I'd really appreciate it if you did leave us a review. Any feedback, anything at all is really helpful for us, and we love doing this. So anything that you've got to say, please say it to us, because we're here for the talk, we're here for the chat, we're here for the conversation about horror. So not sure what's going on next week. We're going to leave it up to you. We're going to do this for you. So come at us.
Are we just stealing your own podcast's whole thing now?
Borrowing it while we figure out what we're doing. But it's not going to be a permanent thing. So we're giving you an opportunity here. Okay, this is, normally we're in control, but we are doing a bit of a you-run podcast where you're in control.
Send some good options, please.
Send us something good, because we are at a stalemate, and it would be fantastic if you could give us something that we could put together. But yeah, I guess we will see you next week with whatever the fuck you decide to provide for us. Bye.
Goodbye.